So here we are, we're about to start our muslin fit, and just to refresh your memory, we're doing the muslin for the plain and simple 24/7 A-line and pencil skirts. That's this pattern here, and we're going to do the A-line skirt for it. But before we actually get to the action of fitting the muslin, there's a few things I have to go through with you just so you know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Okay, the first thing to tell you is that normally when we do these clips, I don't use a script, I just put the garment on the stand, yak away for ages, and we're done. But for this one, there's quite a few things to tell you, so I've got some little notes here, so if you see me referring to the notes, that's why. And the second thing is that this is not a muslin master fitting class. It just can't be. We've got 10 minutes on a YouTube clip. And so I'm really just going to do you the basics. But I think you'll find this really, really useful. Obviously, if you've never made a muslin before, you're going to find it very useful. But even if you have made and fitted muslins for your garments already, it's always nice to have somebody else's perspective on things, just so you can see if maybe I've got a way to do it that could be more useful for you, or just a way that you can do it that you've never thought of before. Okay, so before we get into the whole muslin fitting, I need to tell you three things. The first thing is what a muslin is. A muslin is basically a fitting shell of a garment, and it's made from, da-da, it's made from muslin. And it's made from muslin for very, very simple reasons. Muslin's just a plain, unbleached cotton. It doesn't do anything, doesn't stretch, doesn't give, doesn't drape, it just is. And so once you get your eye in with making muslins, you'll be able to know pretty much how your muslin fitting shell is going to translate into your fabric. So the muslin itself is just the shell. It hasn't got all the bits and pieces, you don't put the zippers in, you don't put the patch pockets on. You know, for a skirt like this one doesn't have a waistband, but if you did have a waistband for a skirt, you wouldn't cut that and do that just yet. You'd fit the skirt first, then you add the waistband. And I can also tell you what a muslin isn't. A muslin isn't something that you wear. I know if you go onto a lot of the kind of internet chat rooms and the forums and the sewing details, you'll hear the term wearable muslin a lot. It's actually a misnomer. A muslin you shouldn't be wearing because you should be writing and drawing all over it, and you really wouldn't want to wear that. If you do a wearable muslin, it's actually a prototype. And often if you're doing something perhaps in a knit fabric or a stretch fabric, that's what you'll do. And your wearable prototype is really useful for various reasons. You obviously wear it to see if it's comfy, if you want to lengthen it a little bit, and then you cut your real deal garment in the proper fabric. So a muslin is a fitting shell made in muslin. A muslin isn't something that you would normally wear, unless it's in a stretch fabric. And the third thing to tell you before we start on this is why you should make a muslin. Well, the truth is that if you make simple garments, you'll probably get away for a time without making a muslin. But at some point, I guarantee you, some point the lack of making a muslin or fitting a muslin for your garment is going to come round and bite you on the behind. Oh yes it is. Because you can guarantee it will happen when you've got just the right amount of fabric and you just want to make this garment and you cut it out, it all looks beautiful, you put it on and it doesn't fit right. And you can't get more fabric, and you've got a deadline, you're going to a party now and you want to wear it, something disastrous will happen. So honestly, make the muslins, fit the muslins. And the other thing, of course, that nobody ever tells you about muslins is, although they are really, really boring to make and really, really irritating to have to deal with, they actually make your sewing a lot quicker. So let's have a look, see how we're going to fit the muslin for this. So let's get on with actually fitting the muslin. First thing you need to do before you fit your muslin is obviously you've got to cut the wretched thing out. And before you even do that, you need to measure yourself. And for a skirt like this, you just need 3 measurements, real simple. You need your waist, your hips and your length. And truthfully, your length is kind of academic at this point. Now, when you're measuring your waist, I'm only telling you this because I know we have a lot of younger customers, by which I mean under 35. And if you're under 35, you will only have ever really worn pants or skirts that sit below your natural waist. You need to find where your natural waist is. Now, it doesn't really matter what your physique is, there's a really easy way to find it, and this is it. You just stand like this and put your elbow into the side, and that is where your natural waist is. It's a really easy thing to do. The other thing you can do is just bend over at the side and see where you crease, that's your natural waist. So don't bother dropping it down here, like where my belt is, that's on my lower waist. You want your natural waist, so measure that, and then you measure your hips, and your hip for this purpose is the biggest part of you. Could be your thigh, could be your bottom hip, could be your top hip, which is round the tummy. Really doesn't matter. And the other thing, of course, with this is that don't try and fool yourself with the tape measure. The tape measure doesn't lie. It is not elastic. You might measure your waist and go, oh, I can't measure that. You do. Doesn't matter. It's just a number. We don't care. It's just between you and me. No one's going to know. So you measure your waist, you measure your hips, and you measure the length of the skirt that you'd like to wear. And then you go onto the back of this. and you check your measurements. And you choose the measurements that are nearest to yours, and if you're between measurements you always go up, you always go to the bigger size. So let's say for instance you have a size 10 waist and you have a 14 hip, you cut a 14. And the reason you do that is it's always easier to take fabric out of a garment than it is to put fabric in. Doesn't mean you shouldn't put fabric in, but it's just easier this way. So you cut your muslin and you make it up, and you make it up using the same seam allowances, and you press them open. And then you try it on. Now you try it on with the seams on the inside so it looks like a proper garment, and you kind of look in the mirror and go, oh yes, it's great, but I want to do this and I want to do that. And then to fit it you put it on inside out, which is what I've done on here. And on here I've also sewn this in black just because you can see it a little bit better. And also muslins of course are great to use all your last bits of bobbin threads. It doesn't matter what colour you do it in, because you're not going to wear this. So I've done all the seaming in black, and I've actually drawn in the centre front just so you can see where it is. And when Jeremy Spielberg zooms in later on, you'll be able to see it much, much sharper. So here's what you do. You put it on your stand, and for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to assume this is you. This is you, and I'm also you. So you might fit it on yourself, you might fit it on a stand. It doesn't really matter. Okay, and you start at the back. Now you can see this is too big for the stand. No problem. You're going to pin out your centre back seam allowance, which on our patterns is 3/4 of an inch. That's kind of quite normal. And you're going to put this towards the centre back. That's where the back of the stand is. And you're just going to pin it in so it sits there on the stand. And then you can see you've got a little bit of excess to get out. And then you work your way around, pinning in, just really kind of fixing the muslin to the stand, at the side seams, at the centre front, and I'm doing this along the waistline, this is the waist stitch line here. Put it there and put it here.